Hi, this is Pete Eckman with the RoboZone podcast. With me, a very special guest. All my guests are special, but this guy is a two-time, because we joked about this in the past, world champion. How are you doing, Cory?
Doing excellent. We got about less than 2 weeks, and we got a bag of robot, so we're everyone's in crunch time right now.
Don't remind me of the nightmares that I'm having on a nightly basis. But for those of people who don't know you, Cory, can you tell us who you are and what team you're with?
Yep, I am Cory Walters. I am the coach for Team 2767. We have won Worlds the past 2 years, in 2017 and 2018.
So, Strikeforce, everyone knows Strikeforce.
Yep.
You don't have a logo behind you, but we'll work on that for next time. Anyways.
No, we don't got a logo. Not quite in our build space right now. I'm just kind of like off into a side room right now.
So I wanted to have Cory on board. Me and Cory have seen each other outside of the podcast and at competitions, and think of a kinship back and forth as fellow drive coaches. So I wanted to pick your brain about a couple of subjects tonight, but first we want to hear about how Strikeforce is doing this year so far. How's the build going?
Okay. I can tell you some of what we're doing, but
trade secrets aside.
Yeah. We're not even going to like, for example, my parents are on a team with 141, and they don't really know what we're doing 100%. So I don't even tell them what we're doing.
So you're telling me I'm more important? That's great.
I'm telling you that you're not going to get the whole story.
Okay, that's fine. I don't think I ever have got the full story, so we're good.
Yep. We're pretty quiet in what we're doing, not what we're building. Robot's doing good. We got the competition frame back today from powder coating, so it's yellow now. They're currently riveting on the structure to that. The practice robot is driving. We gave that to the programmers tonight, and they're tuning it. Everything's good. There's no red herrings for us right now. The bones are good. The robot's looking good. Everything's looking promising right now. We just got to execute and get it done.
And you're excited, right?
Yeah, we're excited.
Slightly stressed, but excited.
Slightly stressed, but it's gonna be a cool robot. It's gonna be a cool robot.
So this is a perfect segue into something I want to ask you. Okay, before we get into this year, and before we get into this year's game, and we're gonna talk about drivetrains because you guys are the masters of the swerve, as I call it. You're the drive coach, but we've interviewed you before, so the masters of the swerve, as I say, you guys should get T-shirts on that. Bag day, right? This year's the last year of bag day. Next year, there's no bag day. So tell me how much stress you're under right now because we still have bag day this year. I'm not saying that we should not have bag day this year. I'm just saying with the weather, inclement weather we've had, you and me are both in Michigan. Yep. We've lost almost 2 weeks of build season because of weather. Tell me what you feel about bag day.
It's tough because everyone had to deal with it, right? And if it's not fair, because it's fair and not fair. The weather made everybody in Michigan miss days. It wasn't just like a West Michigan thing or East or the UP. The whole state was shut down. And so since we're on this district model, it's still going to be even across the board, right? So, okay, all the teams lost 5, 7, 10 days, whatever it is. But everybody lost those days. Everybody lost days from the weather. And even if you weren't directly affected right away, the shipping comes in, the parts come in later.
Right.
So I think this year with bag day, it's a bigger exclamation mark on the season because of the weather that we've had to go through.
Some would say a perfect storm of still having bag day and the weather that we've had.
Right.
And it's not just us. I mean, there's other states, our bordering states, Indiana, Ohio, they've had a lot of snow too. It's really affecting everyone. It's me as a head coach, I'm stressed. I'm trying to meet that 19th deadline, put it in the bag. We made the adjustment the other day. I had to make the executive decision as the head coach that we're not doing the practice spot anymore. We were going to do a practice spot as a second-year team, and we nixed it. We're just building now a comp bot, and we're just going to build a better comp bot so we can compete against you.
Right. We're out of time. We're out of time.
We're going to meet you on the field at state championships. I'm just saying. Maybe a prediction.
We have to get to states, and then you got a 1 in 4 chance of being on the same field.
Yeah. After the other 158 teams compete, right?
Right.
Or 138, sorry, before I get a correction email. But so we talked a little about bag day. Do you think going next year? Let's talk about next year. Will you do a practice robot next year?
I think we will still do two. We learn a lot from the first robot going into the second one. Our first one we built, we call it the Protobot, and that thing is just kind of gross, slapped together. There's lots of holes drilled into it. It's not as fine-tuned as the competition robot, because when we built the competition robot, we're a lot more diligent in how we build things so it can last the season. Whereas the practice bot, drill it in, it doesn't fit, move it, drill it here, try this, try that. So I think we'll still build two. It'll just be nice that we can really get that competition robot tuned in before we go to a district event.
So I was thinking this the other day, and this is how we're approaching, because we had to do a level set and we had to change things. And kids that are listening to this, when things get rough or weather gets bad, you have to adapt and overcome, as they say in the military. So that's why we made that decision. So what we're doing this year is we're making our competition robot, and then we're learning from everything that we've built, which it was our practice spot to begin with, of where the holes didn't line up. And then we'll manufacture new parts, and then we'll just exchange the parts out at a competition or something of that nature, sticking within the rules so that I don't get a nasty gram from Don Bosey or someone on FIRST. Not that they would.
Sticking within your 30 pounds, right? Let's replace this part with a better part and improve as the season goes on.
Or manufacture part at the competition. Whatever we have to do.
Yeah, whatever it takes, right?
So I'm glad to hear that you guys are going to do a second one. I had Andy Baker from Andy Mark on a couple weeks ago, and he thinks there's not going to be as many teams that build a second robot. Teams like yourself that have well-established, long histories, the two-time champions.
Nope, twice.
Right?
Now everybody's 0-0. So
that's right. Every season's a new season, right? Yep. So let's talk about this year's game. What do you think about Deep Space right now? Just because we haven't even had a practice yet, right, with other robots. How do you feel about the game? Are you excited? You stoked? You kind of, still trying to evaluate?
We're still trying to evaluate it. I'm in the middle, I guess. It's very similar to last year's game as far as you need some type of lift mechanism to get game pieces high. I mean, you don't necessarily have to, but it's similar. The balls everyone kind of seen before when we did Stronghold. The hatches are really unique, but I don't know, the fact that the game caps out at a certain score makes me a little hesitant. It's
159.
Right. Whatever the big debate is on the number, but I feel like because there's a cap, it really comes down to who can get that additional cycle. Can I cycle 1 time faster than you or 2 times faster than you? And then the hab becomes your differentiator. Can I get more points on the hab than the other guy? Don't make any mistakes, but it's just a fast cycle game, right? You're just getting pieces and score them as fast as you can with your alliance members.
You excited about the Sandstorm piece of the...
I am. I think I'm excited about it because last year was really hard to do the Auton with no driver control because it was such a long path you had to drive. And there were so many different Autons that you need to write depending which side the switch was on and which side the scale was on. This year kind of put us into a hybrid mode. It's okay, we can't see anymore, but we can use a camera and we can still implement automation into the robot using the vision targeting, and we can still do a little bit of driver portion into the Sandstorm. I think it's new. I like it. It's something different that FIRST hasn't done before.
So I know I've talked to a bunch of different teams. Are you guys still looking at doing an Auton, or are you going to do a driver-assisted Auton, or pure driver control? You can give us that piece, right? That's not trade secret.
No, we're essentially going down both paths right now. We're doing both an Auton and a driving portion in it. The trick is let's say you're on the level 2 of the hab, and it doesn't matter what robot you have. If you decide to drive off of that with Auton, you have no idea where you landed. You're never going to make that consistent. You're going to get wheel slippage on the HDPE. You're going to be airborne. It's going to be very difficult to track a robot. So I think you have to implement at some point a driver control period in Sandstorm to get yourself back.
Do you think? Okay, I got a follow-up question because you brought up a good that slippery surface that we're going off Hab 2. If you have a non-swerve drive and you have a tank drive, it's consistent because there's nothing but going back and forth, right? You're going off or on. Right.
But your wheels might slip on that. So let's say you're counting your encoders for your wheels. Does that slip on the HDPE when you drive off? Are those wheels running in mid-air as you're coming off of level 2 to level 1? Are you counting encoder ticks as you come down? There's a lot of variables that come into that.
I'm going to date myself with this reference, but I made the joke the other day with my team, and they just gave me this deer in the headlight look that they've always wanted ever since we're a second-year team, and they always want a speaker, right? They want to play music on our robot. And I've said for 2 years, you can't do that because it's against the rules. But right. I could see some air horns from the Dukes of Hazzard as your Dukes of Hazzard off that Hab 2, you know, the General Lee just doing that. And I can't make the exact sound because I don't want to embarrass myself, and there'll be a meme out there if I do. But I could see that happening. And if you're listening to this, you don't know what I'm talking about, go look up Dukes of Hazzard on YouTube and the General Lee, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Good. But Cory, you're old enough to understand that reference, right?
Yeah, you could edit the noise into this. You could just take that noise clip of the Dukes of Hazzard.
That's what I'll do.
We'll backlog it.
We'll put it right here, and then that'll be entertaining. So let's talk about drivetrains because I really wanted to get you on. Now, you guys are one of the masters of the swerve. We've seen it. You have 2 huge world championship banners. I'm just saying that because I'm jealous. That's in my dreams to get there. No, not to me. Not to me.
They get different words on them.
It's perspective. To me, that's the championship trophy of our sport. So you guys are really good at the swerve, and you've even documented it, and people try to copy your swerve designs and learn from you guys, which thank you for doing that for us as mentors. Is swerve the best drive to have this year?
It's always worthwhile to drive sideways. I know some people are like, driving sideways isn't needed. Is swerve drive the most important for this year's game? I think if you're able to drive sideways in any fashion, whether that's macadam wheels or H-drive or Kiwi drive or butterfly or you pick it, will help because scoring these game pieces onto the hook and loop tape.
Yeah, let's not get a lawsuit.
right. Or scoring the cargo in those circles there. There's a lot of precision needed to do that. It can still be done with a tank drive. It's just once you're close, you don't have a lot of maneuverability left and right. Swerve drive is good for a majority of the games, in our opinion. We'll run it until you get a game like Stronghold where it's just going to kill it. So we'll run as much as we can. But as far as being the king of this game, it's just going to come down to who's got more experience and who's got better scoring elements. Because you could fix your tank drive robot with a scoring element that moves those hatches and cargoes around to essentially mitigate the fact you're using a tank drive. You can get that flexibility somewhere else in your robot other than the drivetrain.
Right, and that's a good point. I don't know if anyone's doing that. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. Someone put a big turret on around, spin the whole thing around if you want. But
right.
Yeah, but it's key. You get full traction in all directions. So
do you think the same way that I do that hatches are number 1 important, balls are number 2, try to take the rocket, try to get because that's a ranking point, try to get 15 points on the Habs, that's the ranking point. But when it comes into, because you have more experience than I do here, when you get into the playoffs, how important is that rocket going to be? How important is that Hab going to be? What is your thought on that?
If you look at the rules, right, the hatches are worth the same no matter where you put them. Cargo's worth the same no matter where you put them. The rocket has a bit more difficult, right? You have to go to level 2 and level 3. So I don't think there's any reason to make it harder than it needs to be for your elims. And it just comes down to cycle time. How fast can you get things moving? But the game changes between qualification rounds and elims because there's no more ranking point and there's no more bonus value for getting a ranking point.
Now, 2 years ago, when I first met you, we were doing Steamworks, right? Yep. And they still had the bonus points, right? Yep. There were still bonus points for how many rotors you could get going, gears delivered, that type of thing in the playoffs. Do you think that was missed last year? Do you think that would have made a change the way that scoring was? I mean, you won a world championship 2 years ago and you won one last year. Compare those two games. Was it better to have the bonus or better not to have the bonus?
For last year's game, by the time you got around to like 20 seconds, 30 seconds, or even earlier in the clock, there's a certain point on the clock in last year's game when it was over. And it was just a matter of finding when that happened. I don't think they needed to have points for doing the switch in auto for that ranking point, but I think the ranking point for getting the climb and the levitate should have been a bonus there. Try and mitigate how powerful that scale was.
I agree with you because my team didn't get picked at state championships because we were a vault bot, and there are other robots that were focused on the scale. I'm just saying. We might have got picked if it was the vault bot was because there was a lot of good vault bots, right? That was something that younger teams with less resources were concentrating on. Just my personal opinion, of course. So we've seen the maneuverability of your robots, something that you won championships off of. This year, there's not so much room to run around in, right? Those lanes between the cargo ship and the rockets is very short. And there's a huge defense piece to this year. How important do you think defense is going to be to this game?
I think a defender that knows what they're doing and has a proper drivetrain under them can be very devastating to a team that's running offense. It's going to be hard because you can only send one to the other side of the field rather than like how as many as you want. But I think if you get a really good defender that's got a strong drivetrain under them, and has a good driver and has some good foresight of what's happening as far as what the other alliance is doing, they can easily shut down another team. Then it comes down to how well are the drivers on the other team that are playing offense. It comes down to who can outdrive who.
And the person whoever's doing defense has to make sure that nothing's sticking outside the perimeter of the robot. I think that's a huge thing that's going to affect this game. I think people are going to forget that they have to keep that stuff inside, and they're going to be asked to go play defense, and tech fouls are going to be assessed. So we might see some really high, last year it was contact within the restricted zone, right? We saw matches just get blown out because someone didn't understand that every time they touched them I think it was 25 points every time you touched, right?
Yeah, every time you're under the scale.
Right, and that might affect a championship or two. Not your championship, I'm saying it could be state championship or a district championship or something of that, or regional. Yeah. So do you think, and I know what you're going to say, but how effective do you think robots can be in that very short amount of room between the rocket and the cargo ship?
As far as the guy playing defense?
Yes.
I think they can be really effective. There's a lot of scoring positions, though. That's the other trick is even if you're trying to block them, they have lots of places to go and score a game piece, right? Whereas last year, you knew they had to go to the scale, so you knew where the chokehold was. This year, they can go to the other side of the field and score. There's a lot of places to put a scoring position in.
Well, right. This year, I know, based on the rules, that you can park your robot right in front of that rocket. You can stay there all day long. There's no certain amount of time. So I'm wondering, and do you think there's teams that are accounting for that so they can score a hatch over someone that's parked in front of that rocket? Or do you think that type of strategy where a defensive guy just sits in front of the rocket is going to be viable?
I think it's viable to sit in front of the rocket. You can block a lot of points by doing that. As far as like reaching over, because you have like a 30-inch frame, you can extend 30 inches outside your frame. I don't know if you can, depending on the size of the defending robot, that's a long ways to reach over top of their robot into a scoring spot. You might be able to do cargo because you can launch cargo as far as you want. The hatch rules, I don't think you could score a hatch because you can only launch it like 3 feet or something outside of your frame perimeter. You can't launch hatches.
Yeah, I'm glad you put that in air quotations.
Yeah. So read the rules if you don't know about that. But I don't know. I think a defender from a rocket is very viable, but you're not stopping them from scoring because they can still score in other places of the game.
Right, true. And you do have 3 robots you're probably trying to play defense against too. So I'm sure people are going to say, well, we're gonna focus on maybe Strike Zone or Strike Force. I get Strike Zone and Strike Force. It's strike and strike and strike and strike and strike.
They're coming to East Kentwood this year.
I know.
So yeah.
They're looking forward to it too.
I'm sure they are.
Strike Force is, or Strike Zone is. See, I got it wrong anyways.
Yep.
Yeah, but I love that team. They're really good guys. They actually helped us with our design for our robot this year, kind of mentoring us as a second-year team. So they're cool guys. I know they can't wait to come play for you, with you, or against you, or both. But,
yeah, well, there's a lot of teams that, like the other week, we pulled up like the team list. So some teams got into the 30 events for East Kentwood, and they pulled it up, and they're like, oh, Team 67 Hotbot's coming to East Kentwood, and the gyms are coming to East Kentwood. Now I'm like, oh, come on. Like,
you guys gotta, it's part of wearing the crown is you got a big target.
And like Rush is going there, and NC Gears, and Wayland Wildcats, and Code Red. I'm like, oh man. It's like,
it's like a mini Milford, because Milford was one of the tough ones last year and again this year. You said Kentwood. Where else are you guys going this season?
We're going to St. Joe week 2.
Okay.
So we're going week 2 at St. Joe and week 5 at East Kentwood.
I got another question for you. There's some week 0 or week 0 minus 1, however you want to call it. People have there's events before the end of bag season, and then there's that weekend after bag season is done, right?
We'll call it preseason.
Preseason. Let's call it preseason. Yeah, everyone out there call preseason. On Chief Delphi, call preseason. Thanks. Anyways, how much impact do you think a team can get into those events is? Now that, because we lost a lot of time, we lost a lot of driver practice, right? How important are those events?
It depends on the resources you have locally. Do you have access to half a field this year? Because you don't really need a full field. If you have a half field in-house, you can get more experience probably at home because you don't have to share that field with anybody immediately. But there is experience to go to a preseason event, and what does it look like to have 3 robots on the field? How do the lanes work? How do the cycles work? How full does this field look when I get a bunch of robots on it? So there's huge preseason benefits. It's a time thing. Is it worth the time to you to drive out there, do it, drive, come back? Is that a resource you want to use?
I know I don't know if you have a practice field. I know there's some teams that do have practice fields. We won't talk about, let's see, your partner, Team Rush, who has almost a full field. There are those teams that have those resources, and good for them. I'm jealous, but thumbs up. But I think the congestion is going to be a huge thing. We talked a little bit about that, those alleyways. So let's dig into the end. Every time we have a game, we have a big thing at the end, right? This year's the HAB, right?
Yep.
We didn't even think of the third level. No, there is no way we're doing that. Now you saw like Snow Problem, which had a really good attaching and it pulled itself up, but it left itself over the edge, right? It's not. I don't know if that's fully supported. We'll have to see once people start playing. Did your team focus on 3? I'm not asking for a trade secret. You don't have to tell me if you're doing or how you're doing it, but have you made that a priority?
Ranking points are really important if you want to rank high. If your goal is to be the first pick on the alliances 1 through 4, then that may not be a big priority for you. So our goal is to get ranking points so we can rank high. So it's definitely on our radar.
That is the most diplomatic answer without actually giving the answer possible. You could run for governor, sir. I think we're looking at the future governor of Michigan at some point.
We get lots of grants, lots of money. Everybody gets money.
Yeah. I would love to see a governor that's in plaid, yellow plaid. I work for the state. It's right over there.
Right.
I'm a block away from the Capitol. I'd love to see a guy up there. in the yellow plaid. That'd be awesome. I'm just saying.
Yeah. But then I couldn't do this.
You can do both.
I'd be so busy. I got to run the state and then go to first competitions and compete and coach and be a busy man.
Well, if we didn't have Governor Snyder, thanks Governor Snyder. I always constantly say thanks Governor Snyder because I wouldn't have started my team without his grant, right, that he started. So maybe he's going to be a head mentor. Now that his term is done as a governor, maybe we'll see him at a competition as a drive coach. I would love to see that too. That'd be awesome.
Sweet.
Wouldn't
Even like an honorary drive coach.
Yeah. Whoever's watching this, get a hold of Governor Snyder and tell him to go out to like Kettering Week 1 or somewhere and get that control in his hand. Let's see him drive a robot. I want to see it.
Yeah. Yep.
That would be awesome. So what else are you doing outside of, or what have you been doing outside of last year's championship to now? I mean, were there any others? I thought I saw a video by RoboZone that followed you guys out there, and you guys brought all kinds of students to see your facility. Was that correct?
Yes. Yep. So Stryker had essentially, we call it like a FIRST Robotics Day. We brought in a bunch of students from Michigan, from all over the different parts of the state of Michigan, and they got to tour the Stryker facility. They got to go see different divisions, different and like lines and instruments and some of the cool medical technology they have. They got to do some hands-on activities. They got to see some hospital beds. They got to see some gurneys you put in and out of ambulances. So the goal there was to get kids who are in FIRST, bring them to Stryker, get them exposed to all the potential that Stryker could offer in the future for them, whether that's internships, like where there's essentially opportunities for them to get ahead in their careers.
Okay. So that's cool. So you're recruiting.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't want to work for Stryker?
Right.
I'd want to work for Stryker, but you guys are too far from me. That's too far of a drive, man.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we'll do something remote.
Oh, well, yeah. Maybe we could put a little business together, sell some swerve drives. I'm just saying.
Sell swerve drives. We'll need a room full of printers.
We can do that. I can do that. I can make that happen.
Yep.
So, what else what other things did you want to bring up? Is there anything upcoming events, or you're just excited for the game, or is there anything that you want to promote that's coming on?
Not terribly. We have a Sentinel. We have a Sentinel board that's available at one of your sponsors of AndyMark. So go check that thing out if you haven't seen it yet.
What's that all about?
So the Sentinel is something that goes on top of the Talon SRX, and you can put your encoder wires on there or limit switches or whatever switches you want. And what we like about it is that there is LEDs on it, on the actual board itself. So if your encoder's spinning, you can know if channel A or channel B is working. You will see the LEDs turning on and off. So it's very easy to troubleshoot to see if the limit switch is working or if your encoders are broken, rather than just like, why is this motor spinning 100 miles an hour? Well, it's because there's no encoder. This alleviates that because you can see the lights working on that. So yeah, that's on AndyMark. It's called Sentinel. Us and 141 built that couple years ago. We got together and made that board and pitched it to AndyMark, and they distribute it. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just getting ready for the season. We had a pretty quiet off season. We didn't go to a lot of events. We didn't go to IRI. We just needed a break and just focused a lot on internal development.
Yeah, after two world championships, I can understand that.
Well, and there was like...
Well, I can't understand it, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, it was a big... After 2017, it was just like a rush. We didn't really have an off season when 2018 started. So we just everyone pump the brakes. We have things we need to prototype and work on. Yeah,
you had a rush, and then you won with rush.
That's right.
To put those two together.
27 everything.
Yep. So you guys are going, you said, to St. Joe's and then Kentwood, right? Yep. And then you guys are practicing. You said your competition robot frame got there today. The practice spot's done. Your coding team's already ready. Everyone that's listening to this that's not at the stage is going, wow, I'm really jealous of you right now.
Well, like our competition robot does not. It's just the frame is yellow. Like we have a lot of work to get that caught up, but a lot of learning has already been done on the prototype robot, and even the prototype robot isn't like fully functioning right now. There's end effectors that need to get working. We know they work. We just don't have it all hooked up. So.
And how many teams are on your team? Or how many teams are on your team? How many students are on your team?
We have one team on our team. How many students? I think the number is like somewhere between like 40 to 50 as far as like high schoolers go. But we have a middle school program and like a late elementary program. So yeah, the team is somewhere between 40 to 50 as far as like the total number count.
All right. Well, I want to thank you for coming on board. It's Tuesday. No, that's not Tuesday. It's Thursday, man.
Uh-oh. We wish it was Tuesday.
Yeah, me too.
I wish it was the 5th? That'd
be
nice.
Less than 2 weeks away from the bag day, the infamous bag day.
The last ever bag day.
Ever. Well, don't say ever. Not even Frank Merrick would say ever. I tried to get him to say ever, and he wouldn't do that.
I heard.
So, but thanks for coming. Thanks for coming on the podcast again, Cory.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
And maybe we'll see you at, I'm sure we're going to see at World Championships this year at Detroit.
That we are already qualified for. So at a minimum, that's where we will be.
Wow. So. Jealousy just skyrocketed to the moon.
It's a nice thing to know that it's a nice thing to have off your back to know that it's already planned out and done.
Is that forever?
No. So if you win Worlds the previous year, you automatically get a bid to the next one, but it's not forever. Just the following year.
Is it Hall of Fame teams? Hall of Fame teams go every year, don't they?
Yeah. Yep. Chairman teams get to go every year, and whatever first has the long-lasting existing team. So the original teams that were in the first ever season of First, those teams get to go too.
Like 1 through 10, maybe. I don't know what those numbers are.
It's we could have like a whole nother like story on like how the team numbers all got flipped around, but like 148 is a sustaining team. They always get to go. But whoever was in the very first season of First gets to go for the rest.
I have to do some research on that. I'd be very interested to see how many of those teams are still active.
Yep.
All right, Cory. Well, I'm going to let you go. Go work on your robot. It's almost 9 o'clock. Don't work too late. And we'll see you. I'll see you around somewhere. You run into me every once in a while.
Yep. Oh, I'll see you around, I'm sure.
All right. Thanks, Cory.